All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I call this meeting of the LSU Faculty Senate to order at 3:05 p.m. on Thursday, February 20th. Roll is being taken by means of sign-in. If anyone hasn't signed in on the sign-in sheet by the front door, please make sure that you do so for our records. If you are an alternate for someone and have not yet signed in, please make sure you sign in next to their name so we have a record of your attendance. We have some alternate representatives with us today. Aaron Bivens for Samuel Snow, Meredith Feldman for John Bardis, Kenneth Smith for Lauren Griffin, Eileen Habig for Willem van Boxtel, Seongyum Hab for Bulent Yunel, Charles Lee for Patty Lathan, Nadia Drenska for Shay Velavic, Yen Fong Su for Chao Sun, Aaron Gleiberman for Donald Lunn, Jennifer Blanchard for Yan Chen. Are there any alternates who I did not recognize just now? Right, thank you. We do have a number of guests with us today as well. Executive President or Vice President and Provost Roy Haggerty is with us. Associate Vice President for Research Compliance, Integrity, and Analytics, Sean Courtney, and Craig Woolley, Chief Information Officer. Thank you for joining us today. We do have one public comment. It will be offered by James Williams, undergrad student, to comment on agenda item number 8, Resolution 2501. James, if you'd like to come up, please.
Hey. Good afternoon, faculty. Thank you so much for having me. My name is James Williams. I'm a sophomore in the College of Music and Dramatic Arts, and I am also the Chair of Academic Affairs in the LSU Student Senate. I'm here today to give kind of the student perspective on the potential purchase of Grammarly Premium for students. This is also in the context of the recently passed Student Government Resolution 3, which was unanimously passed by the Senate, signed by the student body president, again, in support of this Grammarly purchase. The big question here today is, why Grammarly? As a student, ultimately, Grammarly is just a more powerful spell and grammar checker than most of the other ones on the market. It has routinely caught a wider variety of errors, a higher number of errors, and more complex errors in my writing and many people's I know writing, in just writing in general, than other spell checkers on the market, especially Microsoft's built-in. It really is a more powerful tool that has a lot of advantages. A lot of those advantages are built into the free version. So why should we pay for something that already has a free version? Grammarly Premium offers more revision type support. This is support and corrections on tone, recommendations for voice, how to be more concise, to reword sentences so that they flow better, to better fit the genre of whatever you're writing. Grammarly Premium is ultimately more genre adaptive than its free counterpart. Additionally, Grammarly Premium would offer students the access to a more reliable built-in plagiarism and AI detector. There's a lot of those out there. They're always a little questionable. You never really know how accurate something is going to be. With this more institutional access, it would give students the ability to better check their work before turning it in so they can see what may be flagged, what has the potential to get flagged, and hopefully potentially reduce the amount of cases that get sent to SAA. Another great feature about Grammarly is that it integrates into whatever you are writing. It has built-in support for whatever web browser you are using, for different desktop apps, including Microsoft Word and any word processing. It has mobile apps, so it can work on tablets and phones. Grammarly is wherever you are writing, in your email, in discussion boards, in essays, in your resume, in your cover letters. It has a lot of advantages both within and outside of an academic environment. It gives students the tools to help them succeed and improve their writing no matter what they are writing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you, James. Excellent job. Next on our agenda is consideration of minutes from our prior meeting on January 29th. The minutes were distributed via email in anticipation of today's meeting. So unless there are any objections, we will forego a reading of the minutes. There were two corrections that Secretary Osborne notified me of. One was a minor grammatical correction. The other one was that she noticed that in the discussion of the ORP TRSL portion of the meeting, she had juxtaposed the two. So it is actually, you have until June 30th to move from ORP to TRSL. I believe in the original version of the minutes, it said you had until June 30th to move from TRSL to ORP. So that correction has been made. With that, are there any additional corrections or comments that folks would like to offer in regards to the minutes? All right, hearing no additional comments or corrections, the minutes are adopted as corrected. Thank you. President's report. So I am sure I don't need to impress upon you that this is a very serious moment for higher education. Every day brings more troubling news, and for many faculty, their research and lives have been placed into a state of uncertainty, bringing with it anxiety about what lies ahead. If I can share any good news, it is that LSU is doing everything it can to adapt to these changing circumstances. I am on a task force with various members of the administration following the latest developments and formulating our response, and we are pleased to welcome Provost Haggerty to the meeting today to share information about how the university is handling these challenges. Faculty Senate leadership has also held a number of meetings with President Tate and members of his team about these matters. I have no doubts that they are pursuing every available option to improve our situation and put us in the best possible position to succeed. I've also been asked by a number of faculty members about what we can do. My advice, formulated solely on my experience as a political scientist, is that this is not a time to be shy, nor is it a time to be timid. We must be our own best advocates in spreading the news about the amazing work that we do on a daily basis and the importance of maintaining the conditions necessary to allow us to continue to do so. Take advantage of every opportunity to spread the word and inform members of our community and state about the tremendous value that we provide. I would also encourage you to work closely with your national organizations and advocacy groups, such as the AAUP and UCW, to follow national developments in higher education and identify opportunities for action. I've also asked the General Counsel's Office to provide information about the limitations placed on us as public employees with regards to individual political action. They are working on this request, and I will share what they provide once it is available. I do not believe it is hyperbole to say that this is a defining moment for higher education and the national scientific infrastructure, which has long been the envy of the world. Working together to take care of ourselves and others will give us the best chance of surviving this profound challenge. Item 2. Academic Freedom event. We are proud to announce that the Faculty Senate will be hosting David M. Rabin, Dahar Jamail, Randall Hage Jamail, and Robert Lee Jamail, Regents Chair in Law and Distinguished Teaching Professor at the University of Texas at Austin School of Law. The lecture will be focused on his 2024 book, Academic Freedom, From Professional Norm to First Amendment Right. The event will be held during the afternoon of Thursday, March 13th. Details are still being finalized, but please notify any colleagues whom you think may be interested in attending, which should be an interesting and timely presentation. Attendance survey. The FSCC has developed a brief survey on faculty perceptions of student attendance, which we anticipate will be distributed via broadcast email sometime in the next few weeks. This effort was prompted by discussions with faculty who personally perceived that attendance patterns may be changing, leading us to seek more comprehensive data. We encourage you to complete the survey, and we'll share the results at a future meeting. Summer class schedules. We were contacted last fall by a number of faculty concerned about the lack of a passing period between 3 credit-hour courses in the summer 2025 course schedule. Following a series of discussions with the Office of the University Registrar and the Office of Academic Affairs, the summer schedule has been modified to allow for a 10-minute passing period between these classes. We thank them for their attention to this matter, and we'll be working with them again in the fall on the summer 2026 calendar. So please let us know if you develop any recommendations or concerns based on your experiences this summer. Nominating Committee. Article 6, Item 2 of the Faculty Senate bylaws requires that a nominating committee consisting of 4 senators in the last year of their term and representing different schools or colleges be constructed to gather nominations for the FSCC elections in April. At that time, we will elect a president, vice president, secretary, and 2 members at large for next year. All senators and members of the executive committee are eligible to stand for election. This year's nominating committee members are Gerald Baumgartner from engineering, Michael Russo from libraries, Edward Shahada from HSS, and Min Su from business, and I thank them for their willingness to serve on this committee. Please thank them, or please notify them at your convenience if you wish to nominate yourself for a position. A roster of candidates will be published in the agenda for the March Faculty Senate meeting, and nominations from the floor will also be accepted at the March and April meetings. If you have any questions about available positions, please let me know, and I'll be happy to provide more information. PM 79 revisions. The FSEC was recently notified that the Board of Supervisors will be considering proposed revisions to Permanent Memorandum 79, Freedom of Speech and Expression, at their meeting on Friday, February 21st. We are informed that these updates are to incorporate recent changes to Louisiana Revised Statute 17-3399.1 et sec, passed in Act 584 during the 2024 regular legislative session. And finally, the Faculty Council meeting. This year's Faculty Council meeting will be held on Monday, April 14th from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. Please mark your calendars and I will share more information, including location and agenda, once it becomes available. We must reach a quorum to proceed with the Faculty Council meeting, so encourage your colleagues to attend. And there was one additional item that was asked about just prior to the meeting that didn't make it into the full faculty report. But in discussions, a faculty member thought it would be important to let folks know that I've asked the policy committee to conduct a review of faculty disciplinary policies at peer institutions and identify opportunities that we may have for improvements in our own policy infrastructure. So they are undertaking that effort now. There's not a timetable for a report, but I do look forward to their results once they've completed their work. And once we have that, there will be more information forthcoming. So with that, that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions that I can address? Yes. Oh, sorry, if we can just wait for the microphone.
Thank you. Could you reiterate the date of the Academic Freedom event?
Yes, that is going to be March 13th. Right now, we're still working out some of the details. I think we just were able to book a venue earlier today, but it's going to be March 13th. I think we're anticipating a 3 o'clock start. So, no, thank you. And we'll be sure to include it in the broadcast email as well. Any additional questions? Okay, well, thank you, everyone. We will proceed now to unfinished business. As you will recall, at our last meeting, we had our first reading of Resolution 2501, Grammarly Licenses for Students Without Generative AI, sponsored by the Faculty Senate Executive Committee. This is today's second reading, so it would be eligible for a vote at today's meeting if we so choose. I would at this point welcome our presenters to come and do our second reading, at which point we will then re-enter into discussion.
All right, so the second reading of Faculty Senate Resolution 2501, Grammarly Licenses for Students Without Generative AI, sponsored by the Faculty Senate Executive Committee. Whereas LSU student government has requested that the student technology fee be used to purchase Grammarly licenses for students. Whereas Grammarly is advertised as actually the original AI assistant, one that's provided AI-powered suggestions to users for the past 15 years. Thank you. Whereas Grammarly is acquiring Coda, the maker of trailblazing and powerful AI productivity tools, Coda Docs and Coda Brain. Whereas LSU has not established policies governing the use of generative AI by students, faculty, and staff. Whereas students at both the undergraduate and graduate levels engage in academic research and publish manuscripts where Grammarly may be used. Whereas various journals have made policies on the way AI can be and cannot be used. Whereas the pros and cons of AI are hotly debated by faculty across the nation, and the Faculty Technology Survey at LSU A&M showed that a large majority of faculty have various concerns about AI. Whereas the Faculty Senate Executive Committee has formed an ad hoc committee on AI and academic policies to recommend changes to LSU's academic policies to uphold academic integrity. And whereas the Joint Faculty Senate Office of Academic Affairs Committee on Grammarly has completed its work and issued recommendations for best practices in the use of Grammarly in instruction. Therefore, be it resolved that the LSU Faculty Senate supports the purchase of Grammarly licenses for all students without any generative AI capabilities. Resolved that every faculty member will have the exclusive right to forbid the use of Grammarly by students involved in education and research. Resolved that instructors should clearly communicate course or assignment-specific policies on the use of Grammarly to students in written form, and resolved that enabling the generative AI capabilities of Grammarly for all students will require an approval of the Faculty Senate. This is the second reading. As a brief reminder of some of the discussion that happened last time, there was no surprises for the discussion that happened. What we saw was basically this full grouping of faculty feelings about AI, ranging from we should definitely have its use on campus to it's not appropriate on a university campus to people in the middle that were concerned about various aspects. As the conversation did veer into general AI use, the point of the resolution was specifically for Grammarly. And we did discuss that in granularity, where people pointed out issues of equity for students that are not able to have Grammarly that would benefit from it, but also the cost of Grammarly. And so that piece of information, the cost, was something that was requested, and we were able to find that information for you. And for that, I'll hand it over to Past President Bazayev.
During our discussion last time, if you recall, some of you asked that question and then others followed up post-meeting. So we were able to get these numbers from Jackie and Craig Woolley, respectively. So the cost will come from student technology fee. It will be $8 per license, and they're bought in increments of 5,000 licenses. So there are roughly a little bit over 32,000 undergraduate students, and that would cost almost $250,000. And I should say that they probably won't buy for all students. They probably will buy 5,000 units and see what happens. If that exceeds, they will buy more. And then what you see in front of you, the next portion of this slide shows that how much it would cost for the entirety of student population. That would include graduate students. So it's nearly $300,000. I should also note that at the discussion last time, several of you also noted that there are other much more advanced software programs available online for free. And a couple of you also noted perhaps this is redundant. As students are already using ChatGPT, that's free, and it does far more. It does have generative AI, and that's going to be harder to police. So here's the information. I don't know if this sways more one way or another for those of you who were here last time and felt one way or another, but this was one of the unknowns, and we found out the information. So Craig Woolley's here, of course, and I don't know if you have any other questions about this, but I should also note that Grammarly was purchased last year for faculty and staff, and it cost $40,000, right, to buy 5,000 licenses, and now we have fewer than we have about 8% of people are using it, of the amount that was purchased, just to give you an idea. So, yeah, so now we're going to move to discussion.
Can you pull the resolution back up just so they can see
Yeah.
the language?
Right, we will now re-enter into discussion. We are supposed to take it up at the point at which we ended at the last meeting. As before, parliamentary practices, we will begin with the resolved clauses, since those are the ones that convey the will of the Senate. So we'll start with resolved, and then once we are comfortable with resolved clauses, we can then move to the preamble, and then we can dispose of the motion through a vote, or however the Senate so decides. So any discussion related to the resolved clauses on resolution 2501? Yes, Dad, if you can just wait for the microphone, please.
Hi, I'm Charles Delzell in the math department, and I just wanted to clarify or understand the beginning whereas says we will use the student technology fee, but the resolve does not say that. It just says supports the purchase of Grammarly. So I wonder, is the purchase to be done with the student technology fee and nothing but that?
That's what we understand. Yes.
So maybe I would suggest amending that resolve to say that, to say we support or do not oppose the use of the fund to do that. Yeah, okay. And then I have a comment about the whereas, but I'll save that till later. But basically, I thought if the students, if it's their money and they are willing to perhaps cut some other expenditure in order to buy this, then it's not no skin off our backs, I guess, as far as our money.
So is that a formal motion to amend?
Well, I guess it is. Yes, it is. So I say, instead of saying the Senate supports the purchase, blah, 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 it says does not oppose the use of the student technology fee to purchase. Blah, blah, blah. That was my.
Okay, so this is on the first resolve to add the use of the student technology fee to the end of the first resolve clause. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's about it.
Okay, is there a second to add the use of the student technology fee to the end of the first resolve clause? Okay, there's a second. Are there any objections to amending the resolution to include the use of student technology fee to the first resolve clause? Okay, we have an objection.
Thank you. So it's, Rosemary Peters Hill, French Studies. It's not exactly an objection, but I think what Charles was saying is we do not oppose the use of the student technology fee for this purchase. But what the resolved says is we support the purchase. So do we support the purchase with the use of the student technology fee, or do we not oppose the purchase with the use of the student technology fee? This is an important distinction in the wording.
I think I said
Right, so can you restate the motion?
that we do not oppose the use of the student technology fee to purchase. Blah, blah.
Okay. At which point do you want to insert do not oppose?
Senate does not oppose the use of the student technology fee to purchase.
Okay, so this is a strike and insert.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion is to strike and insert, to strike supports and insert does not oppose the use of the student technology fee for the purchase of Grammarly. All right, are there any objections to amending the amendment? All right, so the motion to amend is to strike supports and to insert does not oppose the use of the student technology fee to purchase Grammarly. That has been seconded. Are there any objections to the motion to amend? Hearing no objections, the motion carries. It is now amended to read that the LSU Faculty Senate does not oppose the purchase of Grammarly, the use of the student technology fee to purchase Grammarly licenses for all students without any generative AI capabilities. Okay. So we have returned to the main motion, which is to consider the adoption of the resolution now as amended. Is there any further discussion on the resolve clauses? Yes. Meredith?
Meredith Feldman, History. Given the robustness of the debate last time, I wasn't here, but I heard a lot about it. And given that my understanding is we now have a new committee that's looking at AI across campus in general. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have a generative AI committee now.
I'm just wondering if this would be, if a motion to refer this back to the executive committee would be in order, because it seems to me also, I guess the other thing is, given that there appear to be alternatives to Grammarly, which are much less expensive, and we're still in quite a bit of confusion and debate about the use of all of these things. Would it make sense to refer this back to AFSEC and back then to this committee that's looking at the whole shebang?
Sure. So would you like to offer a motion to refer back to committee?
Probably want to get rid of the word shebang.
Okay. Duly noted. Would you like to add any additional directions to your motion to the executive committee, such as when to bring it back or things you'd like to have considered if it were with the committee? Or just to refer back to committee?
I move that this motion be referred back to the executive committee, and that it consider referring this issue to the newly formed AI committee on campus.
Okay, so the motion is now to refer back to the Faculty Senate Executive Committee and to ask them to direct it to the Generative AI Committee. Is there a second for that motion? Okay, there is a second for the motion. We will now enter into discussion on the motion to refer this back to the Faculty Senate Executive Committee. And if we vote to do this, it will essentially be returned to the Executive Committee and directed to the Generative AI Committee as per the directions of the motion. So discussion. Yeah.
So why are we wasting money on buying Grammarly when we can simply give students access to something like Claude or ChatGPT?
Well, I think that would be a question that could be covered by referring back to a committee. So if that is something that people are concerned about, that would be a reason to vote in favor of the motion, because that could be a question that the Generative AI Committee could consider. So are there additional discussion on the motion to refer to committee? Yes.
Did that committee already endorse this resolution? Probably in the whereas.
Yeah, sorry, the Generative AI Committee was actually constructed simultaneously for the most part with the resolution. So it has not yet had a chance to review this as part of the committee operations for the Generative AI Committee.
FSCC.
Right, the FSCC passed it to bring it to the Senate. So the FSCC has considered it, and we can return it to them, but then the FSCC would send it to the Generative AI Committee. Is there any further discussion on the motion to refer back to the FSCC? Yes.
Revati Kumar from chemistry. Pardon my ignorance. I just don't quite understand how everything works. Does the Office of Academic Affairs need our approval, or can they do this without our approval?
My understanding, and I would certainly be happy to be corrected if my understanding is incorrect, that they are coming to us as a courtesy, that because this does touch on academic matters on campus, that the faculty will have to identify how and when they would allow this technology to be used in the classroom. Our approval is not technically required, but they are coming to us as a courtesy because it does touch on academic matters.
Okay, then in that case, I mean, going back and forth is not really going to make that much of a difference then. Just something I want to point out.
Any further discussion? Okay, hearing no further discussion, we shall proceed to a vote on the motion to refer back to the Executive Committee. The motion again is to refer back to the Executive Committee and to have them direct the resolution to the Generative AI Committee. All those in favor of the motion to refer, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
All right, in the estimate of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion passes. The resolution 2501 has been referred back to the Faculty Senate Executive Committee, and we will send it to the Generative AI Committee. All right, thank you, everyone. We will now proceed to new business and the second resolution for today. So again, as a reminder, resolutions due in our Constitution require 2 readings to proceed to a final vote, unless there is a motion to suspend the rules and proceed to a vote after the first reading. Today, we have the first reading of Resolution 2502, laptop desktop purchases for faculty by LSU, sponsored by the LSU Faculty Senate Ad Hoc IT Committee and LSU Information Technology Services.
Okay, so I'm excited to be here today as the chair of the Faculty Senate IT Committee, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleagues from the committee, Ken Lupata, who is also member at large of FSEC, Professor Baldridge from Math, and Craig Woolley, Chief Information Officer. And we have been working very hard since 2023, and we have here our first resolution to be considered. Ken?
I'll just hold it. All right, so Faculty Senate Resolution 2502, laptop and desktop purchases by faculty or for faculty by LSU, sponsored by LSU Faculty Senate Ad Hoc IT Committee and LSU Information Technology Services. Whereas the Faculty Senate IT Committee and ITS are completing an extensive revision of LSU's IT policies. Whereas the Faculty Senate IT Committee has noted that laptops and/or desktops used by faculty must meet all LSU IT policies. Whereas the Faculty Senate IT Committee has noted it is a burden for faculty to be compliant with all IT policies when personal laptops and desktops are used as the primary devices for university business. Whereas in university settings, it is standard practice to provide laptops and desktops to faculty for university use. Whereas laptops and desktops for faculty use are provided by some colleges at LSU, whereas in some colleges at LSU, the responsibility to purchase laptops and desktops for university use entirely lies on the faculty who have to use their research grants or personal funds for such a procurement. Whereas outdated devices cause barriers for research and educational mission of LSU and make IT security vulnerable. Whereas various laptops and desktops procured by faculty from their research grants or personal funds are not replaced on a regular basis. Whereas ITS believes having consistently updated IT equipment creates economy of scale and efficiencies for support, as well as an improved security posture. And whereas the Faculty Ed Tech survey found that 80% of the faculty support that LSU provide laptops or desktops to faculty on a regular basis. Therefore, be it resolved that LSU purchases laptops or desktops for all faculty on a 5-year cycle.
So before we enter the discussion, I would like to take an opportunity to tell briefly about the committee so that we have some idea of what the committee has been doing and why we were able to come with this resolution. So the charge of the Faculty Senate IT Committee was to review and suggest policy changes to ITS and provide faculty perspective on these issues. The goal was to work closely with ITS to help implement the state-of-the-art IT infrastructure at LSU while keeping the educational and research mission of LSU on the forefront. And to address these concerns, we worked extremely hard, like both the faculty representatives and ITS representatives, Craig Woolley, Chief Information Officer, and Sumit Jain, Chief Information Security Officer. We had 49 meetings so far, each lasting more than 2 hours since April 26 of 2023. And we have so far, this is a committee membership and folks from different units and various people have also contributed who have not been in the committee, but who have been teaching us on various issues about cybersecurity and so on. The policies which we have revised so far are 13, PS 120 to PS 133, and you can see that gap PS 128. The committee is still waiting for that policy to come to it. ITS is working on that policy right now. That is on identity access management and passwords and so on. We have gone over 51 standards. So in total, we'll have 14 policies revised, hopefully by the end of this semester with 55 standards. One of the overarching theme, which became very clear from the very first meeting till what we had most recently, was that unless LSU provides a laptop or a desktop to faculty members, it's almost impossible for the faculty or staff or students to be in compliance with all the IT policies. So with that, let's go back to the policy, and if there are any questions, we are very happy to take those questions.
We will now enter into discussion on Resolution 2502. Super. Sorry, if you could just wait one moment for the microphone, please. Oh, okay,
So-
yeah, you beat him. All right.
Since I have the mic, while
Sure,
waiting.
go, please go.
Is there any consideration of Mac users? Well, and I ask because last year my Mac died and I was required to replace it with my own money. Although the department had purchased it for me, they refused to replace it. So
Yeah, so there would definitely be options for faculty, both on whether they want a laptop or a desktop, or if they want a Mac or a PC. What we haven't gotten to yet, because we want to at least get this far and get this passed, what would be the dollar amount that would be allocated per machine? And And if there was a dollar amount and the faculty member wanted, a higher end Mac or something like that, that still could be covered with other funds, whether it be departmental research or whatever the faculty member would have. But there would be an amount set that says this would be the amount provided up to that amount to each faculty for their replacement.
Okay, so two questions. One is the hardware, right? So do we have to take the hardware that IT says that, okay, oh, you have to take a Dell machine done. Okay. So that's the first question. Second question is that, so if the laptop has some problem, so my experience is that I go to IT says, oh, no, go back to your college. Now, in every college, there is an IT person, right? But their skills are vary a lot. Widely vary, right? For example, I don't want to name them. Some are very good, some are very bad. Okay. So when you bring them to the college, you essentially get no service, absolutely, especially, right? And if we go back to ideas, they say, no, you have to do it from your college, right? That thing needs to be fixed. So if I have an IT problem, I don't want a varied service. Some college gets good service, some college gets bad service. There should be uniform service provided by ITS.
Okay, so a lot to unpack there. So let me start with the first question, which was probably the easier one, which was, are you going to be forced to buy a Dell, let's say? The answer is no. However, we would love it if we could standardize on equipment as much as we can as far as manufacturers. However, so we will have a big menu for faculty to choose from, whether here's the Macs that are options and here's some Dells, both laptops and desktops. But if the faculty member says, I would like to get a different product, there's going to be some standards it's got to meet for us to be able to support it and to encrypt it, which is one of the big things. But we are open to those discussions. If we would rather say, here's the default, will these work for you? If they will not, then we would definitely have conversations to see if we can come up with something that would work. That's also within that budget, whatever that budget is. Now, on the support, that's we still at LSU, which this is not unusual, so you guys shouldn't worry. We do have decentralized IT support, right? I will tell you, there's more and more units that are moving into ITS. Like we fully support the College of Business so they don't have local tech people. They now are in IT. And HSS, I believe, is another one that we do. There's a second one. I think it's HSS, but I need to double check that. We work closely with all the local techs, and if a faculty member has a computer that's a LSU-owned computer that they need support with, and their local techs unable to do it, there is the capability for us to help them with that and look at it. So we'd be happy to do that, even though we are treading lightly because we're trying to be careful in that we are decentralized. And so we do defer to the local tech. If a college has a local tech, they get first crack at that support, is the way that we've got it set up.
And what is that local tech is terrible?
Okay, so I think let me try to answer. So one of this issue came up multiple times in our committee meetings about the pros and cons of decentralization versus centralization and so on. And I think like all of us will probably agree, like if we go to ITS store, there's still many things which can be present there. One of the side effects of this acquisition can be that the ITS store will become much more richer in giving out the products, and there will be an unintended centralization of hardware which will happen. So I think most of the concerns which are there, like the local tech support, if it is poor in certain units, I think that issue will be mitigated. But certainly, like we can look at this in our committee and we can discuss that with the departmental tech committee also.
Ed Shahada from Sociology Criminology. I support the resolution. However, just in terms of the details, I hope I don't get too much into the weeds, but if a laptop is replaced or a computer is replaced every 5 years, how does that work with people who, say, have a grant and pay for their equipment? Does that money then get used for another faculty member? Or can I Or do I get, if say I have a grant, how does that get paid for? Does it get paid for directly from the itemized expenditures from my grant, or does it come from the indirect that goes to LSU or what's ever left of the indirect these days?
So I think like when
Maybe
this
too much in the
resolution
weeds,
was
but I'm just
passed,
curious.
when this resolution was passed, we had no chance to go into the nuances of indirect versus direct. But my belief is, and I would like to be corrected if I'm wrong, my belief is that this resolution does not forbid any PI to get additional device from her or his grant. That's an additional device which you can get from your grant. This resolution only tells that LSU should allocate certain monies, let's say $1,500. We don't know what that amount is. We were looking at those fine-grained versions also, but then we thought like maybe like this is not our job to determine that amount. Probably $1,500, which can be allocated to each faculty member on a 5-year cycle. The LSU should provide a machine. On top of it, Ed Shahada wants to get another machine from his another grant. I don't think the resolution forbids that. No. Yeah.
It's my understanding you can mix. So for example, you could add on top of what LSU pays, $1,000 from your grant to get a better machine. That's my understanding.
Yes.
Hello. I don't know if that was partly answered or not, but not everybody that works over at LSU is looking for the minimum capability $1,500 laptop either. So some of us actually require HPC workstation type capabilities. So we typically put it in our grants or startup packages or whatever we are giving to our faculty, especially from engineering, right? So is that going to be a concern? Like if they're not using their 1,500, are they giving that money back in some sort of like travel or so, or they have to buy this minimum?
Again, I think you can just basically that hypothetical user that needs a 3K device just pays $1,500 and LSU pays the other 15.
Okay, so you're basically saying this 1,500 base goes towards to whatever the device
Right.
is.
So they can buy an expensive one and LSU pays for part of it and their grant or their startup pays the rest of it.
Then comes next question is okay, now you're basically tagging that there are certain devices that are issued by LSU are allowed to tap into the network. If I have a personal device and I was just doing, let's say, data transfer, is that allowed?
That's, I think, a different issue we could just talk about. But my understanding is this is for an LSU owned device. You're not blending 1,500 of your own money, pocket money with 1,500 from LSU.
No, you see, that becomes an issue when you start upgrading it. It may be like you're buying this $1,500 laptop every 5 years, but the other person may have a requirement of $3,000 workstation upgraded every 5 years. So it's a separate issue. But I understand what part of that will come from LSU. My next question, I understand, LSU is providing, let's say, base, and some people will require maybe even less than that. Some people will require more than that. That's LSU is putting. Second thing comes up when you're saying it has to be all LSU machines for the cybersecurity concerns. I think there are lots of personal devices that people would be trying to connect. How would you address that?
Yeah. We're not saying that. I think personal devices are allowed. Personal devices can be used both on campus and off campus.
Right.
But we believe that having an LSU issued device as your primary machine here on campus does make it easier for you as a user, both with the software that you have available and how we can secure it versus your personal device. But it's not forbidding you from having a personal device.
If you bring in for a personal device, I think the cybersecurity issues are not going to be mitigated at all.
So we already have the policy which we have done on bring your own devices and so on. So Mayank, your questions will fall into that category.
Yeah.
Again, this does not forbid having another device on a research grant. This does not forbid use of personal or bring your own devices. They are under their own policies. Nothing changes. This is only to allow, let us say you are going for a conference, right? And you are not having an LSU own device and you were worried about cybersecurity issues or the device which you are using right now in the Senate meeting. LSU will be providing you one device. Let us, at $1,500 is a hypothetical number. It can be 2,000 probably. And so like that, a device will be given to each faculty member on a 5-year period, a laptop or a desktop, your choice, which is your basic device, your primary business device. That's the idea. Everything is on top of it. Nothing is subtracted.
But
Yeah.
let me just
Sure.
should point out that if you went and bought, say you went and bought a high-speed, super powerful computer just off a grant, it would still have to fulfill the standards.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't. The reason why we're doing this is just to make it much easier for the entire faculty to be in compliance with the standards.
Okay.
And then if you buy your own, then you'd still have to go through the compliance.
Yeah.
Because there are colleges, many colleges in our university, and there are many faculty members who do not have grants and they are using their personal devices to comply with LSU policies.
Okay. So it's what I'm hearing from you is this, had we provided it, that you think that the usage of all these devices would be high? Like I just heard, even with the Grammarly, only 8% is using it. Like the next thing will be like you're paying 1,500 for all faculty and only 10% are using it. So I think that's where I'm kind of coming, whereas is like for most of us that are coming with the startups and grants, we already know exactly what we are buying, right? So, by taking this whole approach that we need to be providing laptops to everybody else, even if they're just, sitting on a shelf somewhere, have you made the good investment or not?
I don't, well, I think this is a subjective.
No, it's like just simply a question.
We don't have a data on this. And certainly we have various universities in SEC who actually do that from their college or central funds.
That's good.
We are an exception in the southern universities who don't have a uniform policy on this.
Okay.
And I believe there's a question in the back.
Hi, Meredith Gallio, College of Art and Design. Some colleges provide, let's say, more money than $1,500 and a quicker turnaround, like 3 years. Not naming names, but I was wondering how this would affect that. I am in favor of everyone receiving a computer at the very least on a 5-year cycle, but I'm wondering if you foresee this kind of, I guess, negatively affecting colleges that are providing more services.
Sure.
I was afraid you were going to say that. I think that's
Just theoretical.
Yeah, it's an in the weeds question that it's a fantastic one. Part of, I think, that answer will depend on how this is funded. Keep in mind, this hasn't been funded yet. This is just, we want to go together because I feel like it's got a better chance if we do this hand in hand versus me doing it by myself or faculty senate doing it by themselves. So part of it is going to depend on how much, and even 5 years was us being conservative. It could go 4, it could be 3. It'll just depend, we have a calculation we've done at how much it'll cost each year. But there is an opportunity that if the college still wants to, because it would be the same question, if the college still wants to add to those funds, let's suppose we do 1,500 every 5 years, but the college says, hey, I'll give you an extra 1,500 so you can have 3,000, that would be perfectly fine and that could happen. What I don't know is where the money's going to come from and whether that will then impact what the college, does or not. And that is, I don't know how that's, how that would work. But it would be an option. College could add to it so that you could still keep that, better dollar amount.
Okay, thank you so much.
So I would also like to add that Craig has already talked with LSU administration and Provost Haggerty has already talked with LSU administration. And I think everyone is in harmony of accomplishing this. So unless things have changed in last 1 week, Provost Haggerty. So. So I think it's a win-win for all the faculty members. So if there are any other questions, yes. Well, Senator Tyagi, these are extremely fine-tuned questions. So
I'm just estimating 1,500 package times 1,500 for that, that's like 225 right there.
Yeah, that's the estimate we have come up with.
Divided over 5 years.
Yeah.
Because there'll be
So when we were working for the CCT and HPC, just to keep up with the supercomputing, to be even this petaflops, we had to save $3 million for a 3-year cycle. I'm just giving the number coming from there's like people that are running their simulations. Every year we come back and say, oh, we don't have enough machine to upgrade our supercomputers and our machine.
So what I'll say is yes, there is going to be way more advanced usage in some areas. The 1,500, I would say, let me be conservative. 80% of faculty will be able to do great work with $1,500 for a computer. So they don't all have the needs, but yes, there are plenty of people, and this is where we said this could just augment that. It doesn't have to be that you're stuck with a $1,500 computer.
I just wanted to, I'm here in, I guess, representing the College of Ag for Dr. Yan Chen. My name is Jennifer Blanchard. I'm an instructor, so we don't have startup funds. We don't have grants. And so I think like we need to keep in mind that instructors should be provided their laptop or computer. And, you know, this is my Dell that I got 4 years ago that doesn't hold a charge and weighs a ton. And I had suggested getting my own personal device and was told no, that I was advised against that by our Ag Center IT. So I just want to keep everybody like aware that there are instructors within the university who do not have startup funds, they don't have TAs, they don't have support in that form of, you know, and with grants, you know, I have a few research grants, but they're very small. So just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you.
Hi, Charles Dalzell again from math. I was reading that footnote and I see 8 schools down there that it says they're paid for either from central or college funds. I guess they have colleges within the universities just like we do. And so they're not all centralized. I think somebody said they are all centralized, but this, I haven't looked at any of them, you know, myself. I'm just reading what the footnote says. So if they're getting, as I understand it here at LSU, this thing, when we say the university's going to buy these computers, it's the colleges who are going to buy it. Isn't that true? Isn't the money coming from a college? It's not coming from some central bank account. Or am I wrong?
Well, what I envision is that this would come from a central bank account. The college's ITS would be purchasing the equipment on behalf of the faculty member out of central funds.
Okay. So we are going beyond what some of these schools.
Yeah, there's a few that do it exactly as I'm proposing. Then there's some where they did it exactly as I'm proposing. Then they move that money to the colleges for them to deal with. So there's a mixture of how they're dealing with it. But I definitely think it works best. And this is my 3rd university, first one I've been at that doesn't do it for faculty. Like everywhere else I've been, faculty got it. And there was a replacement cycle. There was central funds and it worked very, very well. And I think it can work here. And again, I think faculty I think it hurts to not have a refresh cycle for faculty. I really do.
And you're saying that at all those 8 schools, every faculty member from top to bottom, they all get this allowance for some computer, right?
So there are a couple that I could say centrally do it exactly. I asked every CIO to give me back information about how you do it, and I created a chart, and that's where this information comes from. Some have said we give it to the colleges and then they distribute it. Some have said we do it centrally. So it's a mixture.
But they don't leave off. They don't say, well, some faculty won't get one. It's definitely a right.
Not based on what we had, but the information I got back.
So there are some universities which do not, which are in the same boat as us, only few of them. But the universities which are mentioned here, as Craig is saying, they either have the policy of doing everything centrally, or slight decentralization where they give the funds to the college and then the college determines the PCs and so on. But it again comes from the same budget. But every faculty gets it, yes.
There one final question back? Because I'm sorry, but Associate Vice President Courtney did have a change in his personal schedule, and we do need to get him out of here before 4:30. So if there's additional discussion folks would like to have on this, at this point, I would entertain a motion to lay this on the table. We can take it up again later in the meeting, or there will be a second debate on this at our next meeting. So if folks want to hold on to those questions until the next meeting, we can conclude debate for today and then proceed to the next meeting. So is there anyone who would like to continue debate later in today's meeting, or would you prefer to?
I so move.
Okay, move to close debate for today. Okay, but you're not moving the previous question.
Move to close debate for now.
Okay.
And come back to it after.
Okay, so essentially we treat this as a motion to limit debate immediately, not move the previous question. We're not proceeding to a vote. There is a motion to limit debate to conclude debate for today. All those in favor, please say aye. All right, thank you, everyone. We will take this up at our next meeting. Thank you to our presenters. Well, I think we just closed for today, right? Well, then we can delay on the table. Okay, so at this point, we will be taking up the agenda out of order. And so I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules and take up the presentation on research security implementation plan as our next item of business. Is there a motion to that effect? Thank you. Is there a second? All right. All those in favor of suspending the rules and taking up the remote security and implementation plan, please say aye. Any objections? All right. Thank you, everybody. And I would invite Associate Vice President Courtney to join us at the podium.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm brand new to LSU. I came December 2nd. And so this is my very first foray into meeting all of you, and it's a pleasure to be with you. I want to let you know that Provost Haggerty's words are prophetic. Things are changing daily. And so when I talk to you about the coming research security training plan, I want you to know LSU has a plan that we're going to put in place, but the pieces around it are moving on the chessboard quite effectively. I believe about 18 months ago, Dr. Stephen Beck came and introduced research security training to you all and gave a presentation on the timeline and the layout for the pieces that would be in the training. Today, I want to give you an idea of how rapidly this is moving and the implementation plan that we have at LSU coming out of the Office of Research and Economic Development through discussions with Vice President for Research Squilly. What I'm going to talk to you about today is right up here. And I'm going to move very quickly. There's only about 8 slides that I'm going to move through. So it's the rationale behind this, why we're doing this, the guidance that we're getting from the federal government, the timeline for implementation, how frequently we're going to ask covered individuals to take this training, and define for you who is required to take the training. And then I want to explain to you the 3 training options and why we're choosing what we're choosing. Part of what I'm going to tell you on the last piece is when I interviewed to come to LSU, I'm a former cancer researcher who is now a research administrator, and one of my biggest goals is to reduce administrative burden on faculty. I read an article last year that said faculty are now facing about 40% of their time in administrative burden, and part of what I want to do is give you time back. It's very important to me to return you back to the work you're so passionate about. And so I'm reviewing all of our training programs to see if I can do so in a manner that gives you more time back, and we're going to start right here. So this research security implementation is driven by 2 federal initiatives. 2021's NSPM 33, which called for the introduction of a research security program. It started in the first Trump administration right at the end, and then President Biden signed it into an act. So it's coming directly out of the White House. And then in 2022, we got the CHIPS and Science Act, which also called for the implementation of all research institutes north of $50 million in sponsored research expenditures to have research security training in place timelines are fluid. Now, the Office of Science, Technology, and Policy is supposed to be organizing, orchestrating, and driving this issue. I'm going to show you a statement that they made in 2024, and then they've gone quiescent. So OSTP's guidance was this, that we all have to do this. If you're accepting federal dollars, you have to do this to make sure that as an institution of higher than $50 million in expenditures with covered individuals who will be funded by the National Science Foundation and the Department of Energy, which are the first two. Department of Defense is a player in this. NIH was trending in the direction to add research security, but as there have been changes taking place right now at the NIH, we're quite uncertain what their position is going to be. That will come in time. But this was the first step forward where we actually had the idea of what a research security training program could look like. So last summer, they laid out that there are certain qualifications, and we have certain paradigms that we can operate in. We want to either build our own program or we can use the existing NSF model. I will tell you my personal feelings about that when we get down to that. Again, I want you to remember my goal when I came here is to protect your time. So I have a very strong feeling about the NSF. This was the NSF's guidance, and this is where we start to derail a little bit. This is where the fluidity of the situation comes into play, because there are three federal players involved: the directing OSTP, the funding institutions of the NSF, and the Department of Energy. The last two agree that they disagree. And therein lies our problem for instituting this. So the guideline for them requires that research security training certifications for proposers and individuals. So if you're submitting a grant, we need to be able to make sure that you have a certificate stating that you have been trained in research security. And where the NSF is fluid, where things are changing daily, is the NSF has made three statements, and now they're saying they're going to give us an update in the fall. The first was, before you can make a submission, you have to have research security training 12 months before you make your submission. That's a bit problematic unless you're going to grandfather institutions in. The second statement was you have to have a proposal within 1 year of your submission, so they would accept it before or after. Now, their final statement was you have to have it prior to your grant submission. So that's a little bit more reasonable because that gives us a different timeline that we can work with. But that situation is fluid, and we won't know what their final position is until fall. So that's the update from them right now, and they are a little bit different than the DOE. There's only two areas that the Department of Energy and the NSF align, and that's number one, you have to have a research security training program, and number two is they agree on the definition of covered individuals, which we're going to look at in a minute. The problem is the same with the DOE. They're going to permit us to either build our own program, adopt the NSF training program, or another avenue that you can go down, which is take those files and make your own program from the NSF. But their language here, and you can see it highlighted right on the second bullet, that your training has to be completed within 1 year of application. DOE interprets this as 12 months immediately preceding the application date. So my concern and my awareness that I've been fighting for with the NSF and the DOE in my conversations, and also working through the Center on Government Relations, or COGR, if you've ever heard of that, is to make sure that when we go live this spring with our research security training and we can provide you with your research security certificates, we're going to be grandfathered because the timeline has been shifting. OSTP never gave us a window. They went quiescent, and they were the ones driving it. DOE made up a date, and I'm going to give you that date. It's this spring. So I don't want to tell any LSU researcher who's going to apply for a Department of Energy grant that you have to wait 12 months to apply. So we're fighting to make sure that LSU is going to be grandfathered in and that our certificates will be accepted. So they are different. So our timeline is we go live May 1 for Department of Energy. May 1, 2025. We have to have the training in place. Now, because I'm new and I'm the first research security officer here under that title at LSU, I've been working with them to get a little bit of leeway on the policy that I'm writing. We have to have two pieces. We have to have a written policy on research security training called for by OSTP, and then we have to have the training in place. The training in place, we have it now. We can go live. As a matter of fact, Dr. Singh and a few other individuals that are on the Research Security Committee here at LSU have agreed to take the training, and I've gotten very good feedback, and I will share that with you in a moment. That's the DOE. We go live May 1. We have to have the training online for you, and we have it. We're going to release it. The NSF, coming in October, we're going to hear something. The date they gave us was all institutions have to be live with their training and their policy in place by January 1 of 2026. That's not a problem because we'll be live this spring. The policy is going to be where it's a process. We're going to get it through, and you're going to see that because I want to collaborate with you and get your feedback and incorporate your thoughts into this policy as I write it. So COGR is actually requesting that the DOE and the NSF and the other institutions working through OSTP align their training so the window matches, and they're trying to match research security training with responsible conduct of research training, so you get one date. That would right now be 4 years, but the NSF is saying annual training. DOE is saying we suggest 1 year training. We'll talk about that. But there is a group fighting for you to try and get more time and more alignment in our federal partners because it's very confusing to be out here on your own. So the frequency of the training, currently, it's going to be annual. So when we take the online training, it will be, that certificate will be valid for a period of 12 months from the date of completion. There are several reasons for that. One, that's what the funding sources are asking us to do. Office of Science, Technology, and Policy has gone quiescent. We don't think we're going to hear back from them. We think that they've punted to institutions, the DOE and the NSF. Also, after many communications with actually Craig Woolley and VPR, Robert Twilley, it makes sense as cyber changes are coming and input from Sumit Jain that we have annual training. We can update you on things and threats and sources that are coming in a more annual basis. Okay, so that's why we settled on the annual. It wasn't to give you burden, it was to keep you protected. Threats are going to change rapidly and constantly, and this is why our IT is so diligent in their efforts to protect the LSU system. They change constantly. Required individuals, who has to take this training? Currently, in a discussion with the Vice President for Research, both the NSF and Department of Energy researchers are agreeing on covered individuals, and that falls to PIs, co-Is, and significant drivers and contributors to the research projects. So an individual who contributes in a substantive, meaningful way to the development or execution of the scope of work on a project funded by DOE or proposed funded by DOE and the NSF, they both have adopted this definition. So that's currently who it is. Now, I was on a call with research security people around the country on Monday, and I can tell you every institution is split on this. My old institution, which is Purdue University, it has a rule in place that it's research security for all. If you're involved in research, you take it. If you're an undergrad walking in the door, you take it. If you're a distinguished faculty, you take it. I don't know that that fits our model here. So right now, the covered individuals that we are talking about are individuals that are funded by the DOE, the NSF, who are PIs, co-Is, and significant contributors to the research. I will follow up on this and I will come back and talk to you about this because we are writing the policy and your input is going to be put into this policy because this is an area of concern. We want to get this right. We don't want people taking training that just as an extraneous move to say we do it. We want to make sure it's right. So that policy will be coming. You'll see it very soon in spring. It's in draft form right now. The online training options, we have 3. Right now, the NSF, and you can read why, right in that first sentence, why I will never stand for the NSF being on LSU's property. I'm here to protect your time, okay? 4+ hours, between 4 to 6 hours is too much. It's too much. We're not asking every one of you to become research security officers or research security analysts. We're trying to provide you information to protect you as you do your research. Is there anyone in the room that's actually taken or demoed the NSF model? It is cumbersome. You've seen it. What would you share your thoughts? You quit. It's a challenge to get through. Yes, and in some ways it's insulting as a researcher. It's not the right approach for the level that LSU is at. Number two is where we're going. Okay, city truncated program. So it took the NSF program. 4 institutions came together: Stanford, Duke, University of Michigan, and the Ohio State University came together and developed the new training paradigm, and city adopted it. There's another reason why I'm going this beyond just it takes 1 hour. One of the individuals on the committee is the research security officer from the Ohio State University who's just accepted an appointment at the Office of Research Integrity in Washington, D.C. She is working inside the system to make sure all universities can adopt this and all of our certifications will be accepted. So I know we can do the short program, it can meet your needs, and I know your certificate will be accepted. So when you file your grant, when you submit your paperwork, there will not be a question of, oh, it's the city program. It's already been approved and it's already run through the Council on Government Relations. It's run through the DOE, the NSF, but we've not heard back from the Office of Science, Technology, and Policy because they've gone quiet. Other than that, we've had full support on this program. There will be no cost to you. ORED is taking care of this. We will put it in place for you. All we will ask is that you do it once every 12 months. And you should be receiving notifications from city that it's time to do it. Number 3 was my first choice. And I presented this to the Research Security Committee. We develop our own program. 2 reasons. Number 1, we control the information. As our situations here in Baton Rouge and in the state of Louisiana change, we can change our training with it to keep you current on the things that are going on here. And number 2, we're not relying on another individual to handle our work. The problem with that is I've only been here since December and we have to be live by May 1. So the most reasonable, widely accepted choice is number 2. It will take you less than 1 hour or less. It's specific and it's very functional and helpful. And I really support you taking that one. And automatically, because we already have city here, your certificate of completion will be generated in Go Grants. You won't have to go anywhere else to get it. It won't be program hopping and doing things. You'll take your city and your certificate will move right into Go Grants. So everything is right in place for us to put you in a situation to succeed. That's all I have for you at this time. I'd like to thank you all for letting me come and talk to you today. And thank you, Provost Haggerty, and thank you, committee, for permitting me to make a move because of a personal reason. I thank you for your time. My contact information is on the board right there. If you need to come see me in person, please do. I'm in the Digital Media Center on South Stadium right now. I'll be moving to Himes Hall probably toward the end of the semester. But more contact information will be coming from me. I don't have a phone. That's why I didn't put anything up there. My office doesn't have one because it's temporary. I would love to take any questions that you may have regarding the oncoming training, the covered individuals, any of the definitions, so we can really rethink the policy. And it's a pleasure to be with you all.
What about the grants that are due before May? Like we have some NSF and DOE that are in April. I think he can hear me about that. So can we still use some of the template thing that you may have for the policy statement that it's all covered under LSU's research security training?
Currently, yes.
The grant that are due in April?
And currently, yes, because that submission will come before the deadline of May 1 for DOE. And the NSF really won't come in active at the current time until January 1 of 2026. So you are not in a point at this cycle where there would be any threat to your review.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That helps.
Yeah. So just to clarify, NIH, if you have NIH grants or you're submitting, you don't have to do this right now because they don't have a specific policy, or does LSU have a policy that we still do it?
So that's a great question. NIH has gone quiet on research security. They'll accept your training if you've done it, but they won't require it or inhibit your submission at this time. Okay. And some of the things that are going on there right now are fluid. Some of the extramural sponsored programs directors there have been retired. And so some of the direction that we're going to get on important questions like this we're going to have to wait because they don't even have a person named to take over the office to talk to us. And so the people there are saying, we don't know. So we're going to stay the course for right now. And if there's anything that's going on that's untoward in your experience, let me know and we'll go to fight for you because there is no direction from NIH on this at the moment. The fact that we will have a research security training in place should already be ahead of them. And that's my goal, is to always be ahead of the government, not behind it. So they cannot stop your submission or your grant approval at this point based on research security, as they have not given any clear indications that they're going to require it. I think they're deferring.
What are the learnings like USDA with you?
They've said nothing, not a thing. Because what we do is we monitor all of them. In compliance, I monitor all of the federal funding sources. Quiet. What they're doing is deferring back to the federal policy. We will have the program in place, and so they will approve our work.
Any additional questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much for the presentation. I appreciate you.